Hello, I decided to do my theory project on the behaviorism theory. I feel like I chose this one because I feel like I understood it the most and the easiest, and also because I agreed with it a lot more than I did the other ones. So the behaviorism, it kind of looks at how people learn their behaviors through environment. It's not like they just learned it out of nowhere, either through negative or positive reinforcements. Social workers actually use this a lot through a lot of different even theories and techniques, and it all kind of roots into the behaviorism. It kind of looks at a psychological approach for the client. It uses scientific and unbiased methods, which I liked also. It looks a lot at the stimulus responsive environments, being like environment, like society, family, friends, relationships. Watson was the first to propose the theory. He was actually shot down in the beginning because they just didn't feel like they had much evidence to back him up. One of the other ones that came in, because he's the operative principle of the stimulus response. He actually stated behavior was a subject matter in its own right to be studied by the observational methods common to all sciences. He looked a lot at the external stimulant, like the environment, and that all behavior can be explained if that someone does. Like I said, his theory was shown to be insufficient over the years, and many different scientists and researchers add to the theory and changed it. In the 1930s, B.F. Skinner suggested that thoughts and feelings should be put into controlled variables and not really in the same category. He looked at this behaviorism as a operant conditioning, which uses rewards and punishments to increase or decrease behaviors. He was really big into that. Pavlov was actually looked at as the father of the theory, and I actually thought he was interesting what he did. He used the classical conditioning, and he actually had the dog, he said, that he used as a classical conditioning dog. What he did was he used a neutral stimulus and an unconditional stimulus. What he did was he would ring the bell for dog food, and this would cause the dog to salivate, and pretty much showing that this triggered an involuntary response, whether the dog wanted to or not. So he was just using that as an example for behaviorisms that they are learned, because the dog did learn over time. The bell ringing means I get food. Watson liked to look at the stimulus and cause the behavior, while B.F. Skinner looked into the consequences and possible effects of a certain behavior. It took a lot of trial and errors for a lot of people going over the years for the behaviorism, but like I said, it kind of changes all the time, but it is kind of starting to get more solid for everybody. One of the things that they made a point to point out is that thoughts and feelings were not involved in the behaviorism theory. It really wanted to look at straight like the observable areas, because then they can have really concrete evidence. They didn't really want to dive in to that side, so they just wanted to look straight at the observable of maybe the physical or pain. They just didn't, so it was important, but they just kind of wanted people to overlook that when they were wanting to look at this theory and to use it. Some of the negative and positive reinforcements that they can use. A positive reinforcement that because they like, for the behaviorism, they like to use positive and negative reinforcements. The positive reinforcement example of that is, let's say you're a teacher and the kids are being good. So if they're being good all day, you'll give them candy at the end of the week. This would hopefully give a positive reinforcement to the children. And hopefully later on they would realize, like, if I'm being good, then I get candy. A negative reinforcement is, let's say I was driving to work today and I got a speeding ticket. I would get a speeding ticket from the cop. This would be a negative reinforcement because hopefully I wouldn't want to get a speeding ticket again. So they both are trying to go for the same thing, but one side's a little bit more harsher while the other side's a little more positive. And depending on the punishment or how it was used, and if it was negative or positive, and also the person, it depends on how they will react when that situation comes up again and their future behaviors, because they will be tested on that stimulus again, I'm guessing. The behaviorism theory does have strengths and weaknesses. Like the first strength is that it does use observable behaviors, like I said. So that means it does have concrete evidence for scientific reasons. It has evidence, and they can collect the data and conduct research. So that's really, because it's very hard to use thoughts and feelings and moods, because that can change. That's really not always concrete. People can just say things. Another thing is there are many different effective therapy techniques that are used because of the behaviorism theory that are like rooted from the theory, which is very nice and is a really valuable tool to help individuals and to help them learn new behaviors or even just going forward in life. One of the first criticisms of the theory is to show that people said that it was one-dimensional. Like I said, they're looking at the observational. And a lot of people were kind of frustrated with that because they wanted to account for the thoughts and feelings and moods. They just feel like it didn't really factor in possible influences of everything else. The second argument is that it doesn't include any type of learning if it does not involve, if it doesn't involve punishments or reinforcements, then the model did not use that. Wasn't involved at all if that was not used. If you understand what I'm saying. It's kind of hard to explain, but if the reinforcement or punishment was not used, the model was not used either. The third argument is that people said people and animals, because a lot of this was tested on animals, changed over time, even if a reinforcement was applied. So they said this doesn't always work, because sometimes things just happen when information is given to someone, even if there's not a reinforcement. And then obviously, like I said, the theory cares more about the observable behaviors rather than wanting to dive into theories of thought, mood, and feelings. They just felt like it wasn't a big deal for them. So, personally, just from my side, I do feel like this can be used for a lot of things, because I personally do believe that everything is learned one way or another, even if people don't want to admit it. They like to use the observable, like I said, over thoughts, feelings. I know I've said that a lot. They've actually used this theory in a lot of different situations of all different types of people and ages, so it can be used in a lot of ways. So I did learn a lot more than I thought I would about this theory, but I think it was very nice. So hopefully you learned a little something from my video. Thanks.